Right now on Hoosier News Source, people marching at sample gates for reproductive rights and how IUPD is responding to the recent spike in sexual violence reports.
And I have warmer temperatures as well as a look at our fall break forecast. Hoosier News Source starts now.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier News Source. I'm Klare Rasmussen. COVID cases here on campus are at an all-time low for this semester. With 92.8% of students, faculty, and staff vaccinated, there were only 30 cases of positive COVID tests reported last week. Monroe County reported a 4.89% positivity rate. The university requires those who are unvaccinated to participate in COVID check mandatory mitigation testing. If you start to feel COVID-19 symptoms, you can still get tested on campus. Texas restrictions and other abortion bans have ignited conversation across the country, including right here in Bloomington. I got an up-close look at the abortion rights protest last weekend. Let's take a look. Kirkwood sample gates looked a little different last weekend as advocates for abortion rights gathered in support of a woman's right to choose.
I mean, I just think that it should be a choice. If you don't like it, don't get one.
The protests come following the Texas abortion restrictions that have caused worry among reproductive rights advocates across the nation.
It's not even going to...
And some fear what those restrictions could mean for the future of Indiana.
The Texas abortion ban is awful, and I'm worried it's going to happen in Indiana. I'm a person, not an incubator. I shouldn't be forced to do anything like that.
Sam, Mackenzie, and others gathered at sample gates were not the only ones who protested this weekend. According to the Women's March, the organization who started the event, there were 120,000 people who took to the streets on Saturday. And the group does not plan to end there as they continue their fight for legalizing abortions nationwide. For Hoosier News Source, I'm Klare Rasmussen. If you're interested in joining the movement, there is a tentative protest this Friday or Saturday at the sample gates. Visit womensmarch.com for details. Sexual assault numbers are surpassing those seen in the last 3 years. Since August 1st, IUPD has had 11 reported rapes, 7 stalking reports, and 9 reported sexual batteries. That's higher than the total number for the entire school year in each of the last 3 years. IUPD is making a new decision to not give specific locations of the reports. For many Hoosiers on campus, this decision does not seem logical.
I feel like it is helpful to know exactly where these things are occurring, so it's not just like a mystery. I mean, you know it's on campus somewhere, but you're not exactly sure what area, so I feel like it is helpful to actually tell exactly where those are happening. For more information about safety precautions you can take on campus, visit protect.iu.edu. Caroline Klare has the latest on all your fall break forecasts. Caroline?
Thanks, Carly. Rain chances return throughout this week. Right here we have our Wednesday and Thursday. Now, this low is not a surface low. This is going to be an upper level low. And what this is going to do is bring some of this precip over to the south. We can see here Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle here kind of receiving a lot of rain over the next few days. And some of this, as this upper low comes to the north and kind of dissipates to the north, bringing a little bit of rain, as you can see here, through Indiana and up to Bloomington. Not really expecting a whole lot, though. As you can see, 4 to 6 inches down here in the Panhandle. As we go up north, less and less and less. When we get to Bloomington, only up to about a half an inch. So not a total washout, but as you can see, these progression of rain chances as we head Wednesday overnight into Thursday and throughout the weekend. But luckily, this rain won't stick around for the entire weekend. If we take a look at our fall break forecast, unfortunately, it looks like some rain chances on Friday from that dissipating upper level low pressure system. However, as we get into Saturday and Sunday, a beautiful and quite warm week as well. Sun comes out and we're even seeing the 80s possibly here going into over the weekend. Should be a beautiful weekend ahead of us. Great time for a break. Now let's take a look at what we can expect for the rest of the weekend. As I just mentioned, all these rain chances Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, going to bring not a whole lot, but just enough to wet the ground essentially. And as we get into the weekend, beautiful weekend, great time to take a break. But as we get into Monday and Tuesday, maybe some returning rain chances to start off our next week. Stay cool and dry this week and enjoy your fall break. Carly, back to you.
Thanks, Caroline. Coming up on Hoosier News Source, we have the latest on international news and an update for those wishing to study abroad in the spring. Welcome back to Hoosier News Source. HNS reporter Austin Rubin joins us in studio for Around the World with the latest international news. Austin?
Thanks, Carly. We start today's international news in Spain, where the erupting Cumbre Vieja volcano on La Palma has taken a turn for the worse. The volcano has been erupting since September 19th and has destroyed over 800 buildings. And now the north side of the crater has collapsed, creating even more explosions. Canary Islands' regional president Angel Victor Torres said, "The volcano is emitting roughly 3 times more lava than the island's last major eruption in 1971, and doing so in only a quarter of the time." Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez pledged 206 million euros to aid and restore the popular tourist site. And over in Asia, the Japanese parliament officially confirmed Fumio Kishida as prime minister after a tightly contested race. Kishida will replace Yoshihide Suga, who stepped down after serving only 1 year. The 64-year-old former foreign minister wants to implement larger-scale coronavirus countermeasures, as well as far-reaching diplomatic and economic policies. Kishida says he wants to strengthen the Liberal Democratic Party and make politics more accessible to the general public. And in China, 52 warplanes entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone, the highest number to date. In response to the air incursion, the Taiwanese Defense Ministry said they issued radio warnings and air defense missile systems to monitor the activity. Taiwan plans to spend $1.4 billion on new fighter jets to defend its airspace. Despite rising military activity in China, analysts say actual combat is unlikely. That's all for this week's News Around the World. Carly, back to you.
While a limited number of students are studying abroad this semester, study abroad plans for this next semester are still tentative. According to the Office of Overseas Studies spokesperson, IU expects programs to run in the spring unless host countries ban entry of visiting students. Although students planning to study abroad have not been warned to make any big purchases.
Right now we've been tentatively accepted, all of us, just withholding. It says try not to make any super big financial commitments right now in the case if something gets weird with plane flights, something like that. But hopefully, inshallah, that's all going to go very well.
Final decisions will be made in the coming weeks and months depending on how the pandemic continues to impact international travel, according to the Office of Overseas Studies spokesperson. IU had a tough week in sports, and Kara Adams joins us in studio with the latest on how the Hoosiers played. Kara?
Thanks, Carly. It was a tough weekend for your Indiana men's soccer team, a somewhat successful weekend for the women's soccer team, and an especially tough weekend for Tom Allen's football team. After beating Michigan State on September 26, the Indiana men's soccer team had hoped to keep that momentum going when they hosted Michigan on October 1st. The game went to overtime but quickly ended after a Michigan goal 2 minutes into overtime. They will look to get back on track this Wednesday against Omaha at home. This past Sunday, the women's soccer team hosted the Michigan Wolverines. For their second time that week, they went into overtime. 2 minutes into overtime, the game got suspended because of lightning, and 15 minutes later, both coaches agreed to end the game in a tie because of unplayable field conditions. They head to Evanston, Illinois this Friday to take on Northwestern. Indiana football had its first shutout since 2000. They fell 24-0 to Penn State. What had hoped to be a somewhat closer game, the Hoosiers were unable to get on the board. QB Michael Penix left the game in the third quarter with a shoulder injury and never returned. He is currently out indefinitely. The Hoosiers have an off week, and their next game is on homecoming weekend on October 16th against Michigan State. That's all for Hoosier Sports. Back to you.
Thanks, Kara, and thank you for watching this week's episode of Hoosier News Source. To learn more about this week's stories, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV News. I'm Carly Rasmussen, and from Bloomington, Indiana, we'll see you next time.